today I'm going to show you how to make this little bracelet that I'm calling stained glass pearls. Just because of the different colors of crystal, it kind of looks like stained glass. So that's what I'm going to name it. And let me show you what it looks like off. This is a really easy, fast-moving project, and it turns out really pretty. The reason that I have designed this is because I had a couple of jars of just all different colors of Swarovski crystal left over from projects that I didn't really have enough to do with any one color. But I wanted to use them because they're still, of course, very pretty. And they're still Swarovski, and I want to be able to make use of them. So this project is designed just to be a stash buster. These are 6mm bicone crystals, and I just had a whole bunch of leftover. And just use some little pearls and just things that most everybody has in their stash. You should be able to make this. And like I said, you can do it all in one color if you want, but this is a really good way to use your extra crystal up. Now let's look at what we need for this project. Okay, for this project, you will need 3mm round beads. I'm using a glass pearl cream colored. Then you will need 6mm bicone crystals, and this is just a mix that I put together out of my leftover bicones. And you can use any colors you want. Of course, you can use all one color if you want to, or just a couple colors, whatever you want to do. Like I said, this was made to be kind of a stash buster, just be able to use the crystals that you have left over from other projects. Then I'm using an 11/0 seed bead. This is a Toho and it's metallic bronze. Then I will be using a button, and this is just a shank button. This is a button that I found in my mother's collection of old buttons. I doubt seriously you'll find one just like it. However, you can get something similar as long as it's a shank button. That's all you need. Something that complements the beads you're going to be using. Then you will need a size 10 beading needle, an 8-pound Fireline, thread onto your needle 2 wingspans of Fireline, and let's get started. Pick up onto your needle 4 bicone crystals and 4 11/0 seed beads. Start with a bicone, end with an 11/0. It doesn't matter what colors you pick up, just pick up 4 of your crystals with your seed beads in between. And then bring them to the end of your thread. You don't have to leave a long tail, just enough to hold on to, and then tie a knot. Just an overhand knot, bringing the beads into a circle like such. And make sure that your knot goes between your beads and not on top of them. It's like this. Then, as we always do, sew back through all of these beads to ensure that your first base unit is very secure. Sew all the way around and pass your tail where your knot is. And this is where my tail is. So I'm just going to sew back up through this crystal and this 11/0 here. And then through one more crystal and exit the 11/0 behind it, right here. So it doesn't really matter exactly where you are, I just wanted to be away from my tail. And exit an 11/0 seed bead like this. And then you will pick up 3 of your 3mm rounds, and then an 11/0 seed bead, and then 3 more of your 3mm round beads, like this. And then you're coming out of this side of the 11/0 seed bead, you're going to go into the other side and pull these beads down into a circle, like this. And then you're going to sew back through all of these beads just to secure them. So I just turned my piece of work over to make it more accessible to my right hand, and then I'm just going to sew through all of the beads I just added. Go through the connecting bead in my crystal unit here, And then I'm going to sew back up to the top 11-0 seed bead. So I'm just going to come up through these 3 pearls and exit the 11-0 through it and exit it. Exit the 11-0 seed bead and then pick up onto your needle 4 bicone crystals and 3 11-0 seed beads, because we are going to be sharing this 11-0. We do not need to have 4 11-0s. So bring them down to your work like such, just like this. And I'm coming out of this side of the 11-0. I'm going to go into the opposite side, just like this. And this is what you should have. I'm going to turn it over so that I can reach it better, and I am just going to sew back through all of the beads I just added. Once I get through the 11-0 I'm connected to, I will then sew up to the one opposite it. So I'll sew up to this 11-0 here. So I'm going to go through the bicone and the 11-0 here, and then through the bicone and the 11-0 here, and exit, like so. Then I'm going to make another purl unit. So I'll pick up 3 of my 3mm rounds and 11-0, and then 3 of my 3mm rounds. Then I am coming out of this 11-0 seed bead. I'm going to go into the opposite side from which I'm exiting and pull my beads into a circle. And then I will turn it over and I will sew through all of these beads again. Make sure your tension is good. You want to make sure that you don't have any slack whatsoever in your beads here. Don't skip sewing back through them, because if you do, your piece will be sloppy and weak. This is what secures it, gives it strength, and makes it look nice and neat. So make sure you sew back through them. And then sew through the 3 pearls here and back through the 11-0 on top. And again, we will pick up 4 bicone crystals and 3 11-0s. We've already got the 11-0 we're starting with on our unit. So then we will pick up a bicone, an 11-0, a bicone, an 11-0, and I'm trying to get my colors here. What color do I want? A bicone and an 11-0 and a bicone. Okay, so we're exiting this one. We're going to go into the opposite side. They want to fall off my needle. There we go. Pull them through like this, and then turn it over and sew through them again. Sew through all of them, and then sew to the top 11-0 seed bead here. So I'm coming out of the connecting one in the pearls. I'm going to sew up to the top bead and tangle everything up in the process. Okay, so now I am exiting here, and we will make our next unit of pearls. Pick up 3 pearls, an 11-0 seed bead, and 3 pearls. Like so. And then we're going to come into the opposite side that we're exiting from in the 11-0 seed bead and pull these down. We again will turn it over, sew through all of these beads that we just added. And we will just continue making these units until you're an inch short of the length you want your bracelet to be, or if you want to make it, I'm going to try to make mine about a 7.5 inch bracelet, maybe 7 or 7.5 inch. So I will continue making my units until I have 15 units all together. So you will count the pearls as a unit and the little bicones as a unit. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Then we're coming out of this 11-0 here, and now we're going to put on our button end of our clasping. So what we need to do is we need to pick up an 11-0 seed bead, and then we will pick up a pearl, and then we will pick up 3 11-0 seed beads, and we will go through the shank of the button here. And again, pick up a pearl, and then you will pick up an 11-0 seed bead. And you will go into the original 11-0 seed bead that you started from, just like this. So we've just made a little circle around our shank button here, just like this. Now we're going to sew back up through all of these beads to secure this. So come back through every single one of them, even the ones that fell underneath the shank. You want to make sure that you get them. So all the way around. And through the pearl and through the 11-0 here. And back to the, whoa, that was sloppy. And then back through the connecting 11-0 on the button here. Just like that. Now do this a couple of times just until it's very secure, because these buttons get pulled on a lot. So sew through it 2-3 times and we'll be back. Okay, so I have sewn through and secured my little connection to my button here. Now I'm coming out of the 11-0 here. I'm going to sew through the crystal and then the 11-0 behind it and exit the 11-0 seed bead right here. We're going to start our first embellishment, and what we're going to do is we're going to pick up 3 3mm round pearls. And we're coming out of this little 11-0 right here. We are going to go into the middle pearl of our pearl section. So skip one, go into the middle one, and exit the middle one. So just into the middle pearl, just like this, and pull, like that. And then you will pick up 3 more of your pearls, and you're exiting this one. You're going to come up into the next 11-0 in the next crystal section, right here, and pull them securely into place. And again, 3 more of your 3mm rounds. They will not pick up. There we go. So I'm coming out of this one. I'm going to go into this middle one here and exit. 3 more of my pearls. And then I will go into the 11-0 in the next crystal section, right here. Now, you're going to continue doing this embellishment all the way to the end of the bracelet, and then we will be back. Okay, so I have finished my embellishment all the way to the end here. I am now coming out of this 11-0 seed bead after putting my last 3 little pearls on my embellishment here. Now, I have my tail coming out here. First, I'm going to sew my working thread up through. I'm coming out of this little 11-0. I'm going to go up into the crystal next to it, and then I'm going to go through the 11-0 right next to where my tail is here. And now I'm going to cut off my tail, and then I will just burn it down with a lighter. And you just want to be careful you don't block your little 11-0 seed bead there. And just kind of burn it down so that it is tucked away and not in the way, and we can proceed here. So now what we want to do is we want to make a loop for our button on this end. So we're coming out of this 11-0 seed bead. We are going to pick up an 11-0, a crystal, an 11-0, a pearl, an 11-0, and a crystal, and an 11-0. So what we have is like this: 11-0 crystal, 11-0 pearl, 11-0 crystal, 11-0. And we're going to come back down into the 11-0 we're exiting from in the opposite side, just like this. And then we're going to sew back through this little connection. All the way around it. And we're going to continue until we get down into the connecting bead here. And then we will sew up to the top. And we will exit the pearl. So we're going to go up into this one. We'll go into this 11-0 here and into the pearl and exit the pearl. Then we will start to pick up a series of 11-0s and pearls until we are able to get enough to go around the diameter of our button. So I'm starting with 11-0, and then I'm going to pick up a pearl, then 11-0, then a pearl, then 11-0, and so on until I have enough to go around my pearl. And as soon as I get enough to test, I will show you how to do that. Okay, so I'm not going to tell you exactly how many I picked up because it depends on the size of your bead. Just pick up a series of them, start with an 11-0 and end with an 11-0. Then slide back through just your pearl here. Hold it very tightly, wrap it around your fingers or whatever you have to do. Hold it very tightly like this, and then try to slide it over your button without it pulling free. Now see, this isn't big enough, so I'm going to have to add a couple more. So I'll just slide out of my pearl here, add a few more, and test it again until I get enough. And now I've tested it and I have enough. So what I will do is, as I'm coming out of my pearl, I will sew all the way around all my beads several times, and then I will exit this pearl and we'll be back. So just make sure you sew around this, make it very secure. Okay, so I have sewn around my loop and made it secure. And now I'm coming out of the pearl on this side. I'm going to sew down into this little bicone, the 11-0 and the bicone right underneath it. And then I'm going to sew into the 11-0 underneath the bicone and the 11-0 in the first crystal section here. Just that 11-0. The 11-0 under this crystal I will ignore. And then I will go into this crystal right here and exit this 11-0 in my unit here. Now, with this pearl embellishment, I didn't bring it all the way up to these crystals up here. I don't really think that it's necessary to have to do that because I didn't do it on this side either. So I'm not going to do that, but if you decide that you would like to do that, then you can, but I think it's going to be fine without it. I think it'll be pretty with just the little crystals like this. So now what we're going to do is start our pearls on this side of the bracelet. So we're going to pick up 3 of our pearls. We're exiting this 11-0 here. We're going to go into the middle pearl on our pearl section and pick it up and slide through it. Then pick up 3 more pearls onto our needle, and we're coming out of this pearl here. We're going to go into the 11-0 in the crystal section and slide through it. And we're going to continue doing this all the way to the end, just like we did on the other side. and then we'll be back. Okay, so I have finished this entire side. I'm just going to put my very last one on. I'm going to show you how we're going to move over to do our next embellishment. So I have my 3 pearls for my very last. I'm coming out of this one right here, this little middle one, after putting these pearls on here. So I am just going to go from this middle pearl to this 11-0 seed bead in the section right underneath my button here. Now I'm coming out of this 11-0 seed bead here. I'm going to sew up into this crystal and the 11-0 seed bead right on top of it, avoiding the seed beads that hook my button to my bracelet. Now I'm coming out of the little 11-0 between these 2 crystals. I'm going to go down into the crystal here and the 11-0 on the other side of it like this. And then I'm going to bring my work over here and I'm going to start an embellishment on the outside here. So what I'm going to do is I'm coming out of this 11-0 seed bead. I'm just going to sew through 2 pearls and so exiting the second pearl right here after sewing around from the other side. And now we're going to pick up a bicone crystal and we're going to skip 3 pearls, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to go into the 4th pearl and the pearl behind it. And we're going to pull it tight. We're just going to place this little bicone crystal down into the dip between the pearls here. So you can see that there's a little dip. Each one of these dips we're going to place a bicone crystal in. And we're just going to sew through the top part here. So we're going to sew through this 11-0. We're going to sew through these 2 pearls. Then we will skip 1, 2, 3. We will pick up a bicone crystal and we'll go into the 4th and the pearl behind the 4th pearl. So the 4th and the 5th pearl. And pull the bicone in. Now, you can add a little 15-0 seed bead if you want. I'm not going to do that because I think I can get enough tension on this. Plus, I want my bracelet to shrink down just a little bit. So I'm going to do this and try to keep it nice and without any slack. As you do it, you may need to arrange things because it might bunch a little bit. Now, we're going to go through this 11-0 right here. Go through the 2 pearls after the 11-0. Pick up a bicone crystal. Skip 3, 1, 2, 3, go into the 4th and the 5th bead and pull it through. Then go through the 11-0 and the 2 beads behind it and exit. Pick up a crystal. Skip 1, 2, 3, go into the 4th and the 5th. So just the beads on top of the crystals. So you can see how these go down. The 2 on the very top are the ones you want to go through. And we're going to do this all the way to the end of the bracelet. Now remember, we're just doing one side first, so it's going to kind of curve. That's okay. We'll just keep straightening it out. When we get to the other side, we can fix that curve. No problem. Okay, so I put my bicone crystal all the way across. Now, you want to make sure that you unbunch it, make sure at the same time that your tension is very good, that you don't see a bunch of thread between here. And then we are going to sew through to the other side. So I'm coming out, I've put this last little crystal in, I'm coming out of the 2 little pearls here. I'm going to sew up into the 11-0 here and the crystal, and then the 11-0 that is between the 2 crystals in my original unit. So I'll show you what I mean. I've sewn through this 11-0, this crystal. Now I'm going to sew through this 11-0, avoiding the 2 that lead up towards my clasping. So I'm just going to go through this one, and then I'm going to turn this way, come through the bicone crystal on this side, and then I will sew through the 11-0 here in the first pearl, and then I will sew through the second pearl right here. So I'm going to go through 2 pearls after coming through that crystal, and then I can start my embellishment again. So I will just pick up a bicone crystal. Let's see, what color do I want? And I'm going to go from this side to this one over here, the two on top. So I will skip 1, 2, 3, go into the fourth, and the pearl behind it, and the 11-0 here. Pull my crystal down all the way, and then I will sew up through these two. I'm coming out of the 11-0, I'll sew up through these two on top of the unit here. Pull my thread through and pick up a bicone, and again I will skip 1, 2, 3, sew into the fourth and go into the one behind it, and the 11-02 if you can capture it, and place your bicone in there. Now I'm going to do this all the way across again, and then we'll be back. Okay, so I have finished my embellishment all the way up the side, and now I am coming out of this little pearl here after putting my last bicone on. I'm going to make sure everything's tight, tension is good, and yet nothing is bunched. Make sure your whole bracelet looks pretty darn good, and like I said, no slack. And then sew up, we're coming out of this little pearl here, sew up into this 11-0 seed bead here, and the crystal behind it. Kind of tight up here, there we go. Make sure your thread is good and nothing's bunched. Sew into the other side. So go right through the 11-0 you're in, go through the crystal on the other side, and then again check your tension and grab a half hitch knot on the thread bridge right here between the 11-0 and the crystal. Just make a half hitch knot. Yeah, pull that smaller. Make sure that your thread is guided between the beads and not on top of them, and then go through the next 11-0 and pearls, and you'll just sew through your work following your original thread path. You can go through the pearls however you want, as long as you don't cross over your thread path. Make sure you're following the original thread path. Grab some half hitch knots, sew through some more, grab some half hitch knots here and there, and then cut off your thread, burn it down with a lighter, and we'll be back. Okay, so I sewed through and knotted off, and then burnt off my extra thread, and this is what my piece looks like. You may need to smooth it and kind of manipulate it a little bit with your hands to make sure there's no bunches and all those things. Get it nice and pretty, and then we'll put it on so you can see what it looks like here. Whoa, that wasn't very graceful either. Okay, so that is what it looks like on. It's really very pretty. I like it. It's comfortable, wears well, and it doesn't feel like it's going to fall off. It's not going to slip. Looks pretty darn good. And I think it kind of looks like stained glass. Maybe that's what I'll call it. I don't know. But anyway, this is a good way to use up some of your extra stuff. It's a fast-moving project, and I hope you enjoyed it. And have a good day. Bye-bye.